camped in the shelters, I always just find a nice spot somewhere off the trail. The thought of the shelters kind of wigged me out because I've had people tell me that when you camp in the shelters a lot of times that there's like mice.
Well, and also you're kind of a target.
Around.
That's just your instincts and the type of person you are. Like, this is an obvious place for someone to come looking or something like that. I'd rather be off by myself.
Yeah, I
kind
just
of
would
secluded.
feel more safe, and I want to be in a tent.
Right.
So that the creatures will leave me alone. I don't know. Like, it wigs me out when I'm in a tent and I can feel an animal come up in the middle of the night and, like, sniff my fingers through the tent or something.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, it's probably just a raccoon, but... the thought of like a mouse crawling on me while I'm trying to sleep, hell no.
Or a big spider.
So. The spider doesn't even freak me out as much as like a mouse does.
Or a snake.
Oh, yeah, don't even go there. So, as we were talking about here, the cops start poking around the shelter, and they saw some things that were pretty odd there. Like, for example, a stain on the floorboards.
That's never good.
Right? Officers discovered it was blood, and eventually it would test positive as Robert Mountford Jr.'s blood. So the investigators searched this 30-yard radius around the shelter, and they found this one spot that looked kind of like the ground had been disturbed and covered with leaves. And so once they started digging, they were able to find a sleeping bag, and eventually they found the body of Laura Ramsey.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. So the bodies had been buried in a shallow, leaf-covered grave, and they were, in fact, buried in their sleeping bags. But once they find Laura, they're, I guess, still trying to find Robert. And so they bring in cadaver dogs, go right to the body. They're able to find him as well. Well, they also found Laura Ramsey's camera near the scene, but the film had been taken out. And cops were hoping that there would still be film in the camera, or, and that perhaps they'd have a picture of something, the
or
killer.
The moments right before anything.
Yeah, something. But no film in there. But they did find a book that belonged to Ramsey, which had a bloody fingerprint in the book. Well, they already have witnesses saying, I guess, that they had seen this guy who kind of looked like Randall Smith. Then they find this fingerprint, and lo and behold, who does it belong to?
Randall Smith.
Ding, ding, ding. We've got a winner.
Yeah, I'm sure this whole time they were thinking, I bet this Randall, because I'm sure they thought of him as weird. The guy, the quiet guy that off in the woods all the time, probably socially awkward, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm sure they think about him the whole time this was unfolding.
Well, this had also been like the first double homicide on the Appalachian Trail. I guess, there had been others reported. I think the earliest actual report of a homicide on the trail was like 1974.
Right.
So this is just a few, 6 years after that, 7 years after that.
And this is a double homicide.
Double homicide. Well, Robert Mountford Jr. was shot 3 times, and then Laura Ramsey had been stabbed more than 12 times. And Randall Smith went even as far as returning to the shelter. Like, he had killed them, buried them, went back to the shelter, tore out pages from the logbooks. Because, at the shelter, a lot of times they'll have logbooks. They're signed by hikers all along the trail. And it is as a safety precaution, but also just kind of for fun. People will write little notes in there, little notes of encouragement, like, hey, we made it, you guys can make it here, that sort of thing. And then it's a good way for hikers to kind of check in with each other. Like, maybe you bumped into someone on the trail like a few days before, they went into town, they came back, oh, well, they're at this shelter today, maybe I can catch up with them here tomorrow, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So he'd gone back and torn those pages out. I mean, this guy just, he was something. Well, during the investigation, they found some blood-stained clothes soaking at Randall Smith's home. And then they found a lot of pornographic magazines in his house.
Oh, that's a great combination.
Yeah, so I guess they found the blood-stained clothes kind of in like a basement area, and that's where they found this huge stash of porno mags. And it wasn't just like he had left, jugs laying out or something. He went as far as he would take the pages out very carefully, like from the magazine, and place them in plastic sleeves to preserve them.
Oh.
Yeah, so he was quite a fan, a collector.
Wow.
Obviously, this is a guy who's got a lot of skill with the ladies.
Yeah, because he's making where he can wipe them off.
Well, they also found, among the bloody clothes and all the porno mags, some medical instruments, which had been fashioned into, like, sex toys.
Okay. So this cannot, what else did they find? Because this cannot get any weirder or creepier.
Well, they found a few more items that belonged to the victims.
Oh, nice.
Among the stash of goodies there.
Okay, so we got, you keep the blood-soaked clothes, and you soak them, probably with, a little club soda and baking soda or something in there.
Yeah.
And he's got the crazy porn thing that's like in book reports, like 5th grade book report, all preserved. And the items of the victims.
Yeah.
And it's bloody fingerprints in a book found on the scene.
Right. So they're at his house. They find all this stuff. I mean, they're like, okay, this guy did it. They've got witnesses coming forward saying, hey, we saw, these folks with this creepy dude, whatever. So they're like, okay, this is Smith. But they go to his house. They find all this weird shit, but they don't find him.
Oh.
So it was almost a week after the murders had taken place that Smith was found. He drove his pickup truck to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. He abandoned the pickup truck. He had written this very rambling note. It was left in the ashtray. It said, "This boy and girl have been so nice to me, it is going to be a real shame when the time comes to get rid of them. I will be far away before the truck and those people are found."
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So leaves the note, abandons the vehicle, but he's still captured and arrested in Myrtle Beach. And why of all places did he go to Myrtle Beach? I don't know.
Dude.
Everybody loves the Redneck Riviera.
Who went to Myrtle Beach?
Yeah. Wonder if he got like a cool airbrush t-shirt.
Or at least a tag that could have like just me on it and just his name because he kills everybody.
I hope he went to the Gay Dolphin. That's the best part of going to Myrtle Beach.
Okay.
It's the Gay Dolphin, the gift shop.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Where they have all this cheesy stuff for like $1.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah.
So tacky, but it's awesome.
Randall Smith arrested, charged. Eventually he makes a plea deal. And I think plea agreements suck.
It depends. I mean, like I said, if they are real worried about, circumstantial evidence, not having a strong enough case, and they think that he likely might win a trial in front of a jury just because of doubt. You just got to have that little flicker of doubt. That's how the defense attorneys count on. Just that one person that holds out or anything like that. So sometimes they make these pleas.
Yeah.
But it usually pisses me off too.
Yeah, well, in these cases, definitely. So he receives this plea deal. He gets a second-degree murder charge and was sentenced to 15 years in prison, which caused a lot of controversy.
Wow.
I mean,
it's a great
you shoot
deal.
a guy, you stab this woman, you bury them out in the woods, you run away like a coward, go to Myrtle Beach, leave a weird fucking note. I mean, geez.
Yeah, and even in the note, you're basically admitting you're hanging out with these people.
Yeah.
Gaining their trust, and then just going to turn on them like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just really strange, but it caused a lot of controversy, as you can imagine. Of course, the victims' families were very upset, and 5 years after the sentence began, the Virginia Parole Board considered letting him out early.
Wow.
Yeah, so family, friends, and a lot of Appalachian Trail supporters made calls, wrote letters, just protesting the possibility of releasing this guy.
Damn, this guy's lucky, isn't he?
Yeah.
He gets this juicy plea and then might get out in 4 or 5 years.
Once he was released, they put him under like a probation for 10 years, which is a pretty long time to be on probation. And they also had him wear an ankle monitor for a pretty good bit of time as well.
Yeah.
Like a year or two after he was released. So we're going to fast forward to 2008. This 10-year stretch, basically, since he had gotten out of prison, returned home. He's living a really quiet life. He's staying out of trouble. He's, doing the same kinds of things, just working some odd jobs, spending a lot of time outside on the trail, fishing, hiking, that kind of thing.
So where did he go after he got out of jail?
He went back home to his
to his childhood home out in the woods.
What you know.
Perfect for him.
It was May of 2008 that Smith was reported missing. And I think there were some neighbors that he had kind of been helping out, like clearing brush and doing that kind of stuff for them.
Yeah.
And they kind of noticed that he wasn't around. And then I think he still, because, he was on probation for 10 years. I think the probation officer would stop in. So, he wasn't around. Everybody was kind of like, okay, where did he go? They sent law enforcement over to his house. They did break in as part of a welfare check. And they said the home was fine. They said it looked like someone just walked out and left everything behind. So they knew at that point, it wasn't like he had packed up and left town. He's probably just doing Randall and out on the trail hanging out. Because he would go hiking, as I said, for days on end. He was always on the trail, that sort of thing. So law enforcement just kind of assumed that maybe he'd gone up on the mountain, he'd broken a leg, maybe had a heart attack, something like that.
Right.
So they were not about to go look for him. They instead posted a few missing persons posters around, and kind of around the trail and that sort of thing, hoping that some hikers might bump into him and come into town and say, oh, we saw him,
It sounds like they could really care less if he was around or not.
So Randall was missing for about 8 or 9 days before he finally turned up. And he was discovered by 2 fishermen. Scott Johnston of Bluefield, Virginia, and Sean Farmer of Tazewell, Virginia, were camping at an area known as Walnut Flats. It's in the dismal area of Jefferson National Forest. And the 2 were trout fishing. I guess, they were kind of accustomed to maybe making kind of like an annual sort of trip to do a big trout fishing kind of thing.
Oh, it was their Brokeback Mountain.
Well, I don't know about that, but,
I can't quit
it was like the buddies, fishing.
I can't quit fishing you, Jim.
So they're just hanging out. I'm ignoring you. At their campsite when an emaciated Smith showed up out of nowhere. So he's looking pretty haggard, skinny, thin, obviously hasn't eaten.
That would weird me out.
Yeah.
If I'm out here with my buddy or my friend or whoever, and it's just us for a long, and you might see a hiker or somebody else, but to see this dude looking all crazy and looking like Gollum crawling up a riverbank or something, I'm like, nah, yeah, dude.
Well, he was toting a fishing pole with him, and he had a dog. The 2 guys kind of strike up conversation with him, trying to be friendly. He told them he was an engineering student at Virginia Tech. And they didn't believe this, but they took pity on him anyway and offered him a meal. So it was after the men had, served him up dinner, were being really super kind to him, trying to be, a pleasant, whatever.
Yeah, they probably offered him a cold beer maybe, a little friend, talking.
So he decides to return the favor by attempting to kill both of them with a .22 caliber revolver.
Randall, that's not how we make friends.
Right? Well, fortunately, these 2 men were able to escape, but they did receive serious gunshot wounds. They were in this remote section, as I mentioned, Walnut Flats, but this section in particular is called No Business.
And it's just rough.
Yeah.
Super. It's when you're in the middle of nowhere and you go further.
And you ain't got no business being there.
And you're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. These guys thought that they would probably bleed out before they even made it out of the woods.
Yeah, because apparently it's like so many miles on like rutted, narrow trail road before you even get to regular roads.
Well, Smith had stolen Johnston's Ford Ranger, so the guys definitely had to hike out of this area. Shot. Cars stolen, truck stolen. But Smith is going to eventually overturn this truck when he's fleeing from Virginia state troopers. And he was arrested, but transported to the hospital for medical treatment after the crash.
Wow.
Gotta doctor him up, right?
Yeah, so we can fuck him up.
Well, 2 days after he was admitted to the hospital, he died of a blood clot.
Ah.
Yeah.
Damn.
So didn't even go to trial over this.
So here's a guy who killed this other couple,
murders 2 hikers,
murders them, befriends them, spends days doing it. I mean, that's just sick. That's evil.
Right.
That's way beyond I jump out and, all these circumstances that can happen where you kill someone, whatever. That is like a different kind of when you manipulate and just lay in wait